Welcome to AIScento, the podcast where we explore how artificial intelligence, digital transformation, leadership, and innovation are reshaping the future of business. Today, we're joined by Cary Prejean, founder and strategic business partner of Business Advisors, veteran CPA, and certified ontological coach and business strategist. For more than 4 decades, Cary has helped hundreds of business owners transform organizations that are dependent on constant firefighting into what he calls well-oiled machines. Businesses powered by actionable financial data, repeatable systems, strategic planning, and aligned teams. What makes Cary especially interesting for today's conversation is that his work sits at the intersection of numbers and human behavior. He helps leaders to understand not only what data is saying, but why people inside the organization may be helping or hindering the results. Today, we're going to explore how those proven business principles evolve in the age of artificial intelligence and what happens when AI-powered dashboards and forecasting, automation, and decision support are layered onto a well-designed organization. Cary, welcome to AIScento.
Hey, John, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So let's jump right in here. The foundation of why most businesses still operate kind of in the blind. You've worked with hundreds of business over the years, over the course of your career. And when you look across those companies, what patterns did you repeatedly see that inspired you to start Strategic Business Advisors?
Generally, it's so let me if think about how people start a business, grow it. At some point, they wind up to where they're working 100 hours a week. They can't really grow the business because they personally can't handle it anymore because they're involved in everything. And the phenomenon is they become the bottleneck because what they're used to is when you get started and you hire one, maybe two people, everything still has to go through you. In fact, you're an entrepreneur who can have a great idea, turn it into revenue, but you also have to deal with government regulation, filing for different licenses, accounting, taxes, human resources, group benefits, shipping, inventory management, all that stuff. They haven't had any education or training in those areas, yet they have to make them work for their business to function, right? And yeah, you can hire an outside accountant, come in and help you with your accounting, your bookkeeping, but is anybody going to explain to you what your financial statements mean, right? They're not. Well, at least most accountants won't. They'll just say, here's your financial statements. Have any questions? No, because I don't really know what they say. So what happens is you get to where the owner becomes the bottleneck to the business because everything has to go through them. They want to micromanage everything. They're looking over everybody's shoulders. If somebody does something that's not the way the owner wants it done, even though that came out right, the only big question is, why'd you do it that way? That's not the way I'd have done it. I see that repeatedly. So it's a matter of the business owner coming to recognize that they are the bottleneck. Until that happens, it's not going to change. But again, it's a big issue of trust. They started the business, they own the business. The business is everything to them in terms of their identity, their reputation, their wealth, their income, status in the community, everything else. So they're not just going to turn that over to employees who, from their perspective, look like they're just showing up for a paycheck. Right? What they don't get is they've trained their employees to act that way. Inadvertently, not knowing it, but when you run around and micromanage everybody, and especially if somebody does something right, but they didn't do it like you said, like you wanted, or you thought it should be done, and your question is, why'd you do it that way? That's not the way I'd have done it. You learn quickly as an employee, don't do anything the boss, take things down so far and then let the boss come in and finish the way they want to finish it.
So what are the biggest mistakes that business owners continue to make when it comes to understanding the health of their companies?
Not knowing their numbers, not knowing their financial statements, not looking at whatever the important KPIs for that business are, at least on a weekly basis. Some businesses, like in e-commerce, you want to look at certain numbers every day. Web traffic, average ticket size, number of sales. In terms of shipping, you want to make sure things are getting out in the time you said they would be shipped out. I have one client who said that as long as you bought before 2 p.m. Eastern time, it's shipped the same day. If not, it was shipped the next day. And every now and then they had snafus, as they call them, in the warehouse where, especially like Thanksgiving, had the business like nearly tripled in November just because of the Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all that stuff. So a couple of Thanksgivings ago, a couple of years ago, they weren't getting orders out from Thanksgiving week until right before Christmas. Well, in the meantime, they had, people were so used to getting their packages early from them, they canceled their orders. They said it never showed up. Well, it never got shipped. So it cost them in terms of cancellation of orders, and people had bought order protection, right? So order protection paid for another shipment to come. In the meantime, they had to eat all those shipments that didn't get out. But anyway, so those are the kind of things that the owner can't be at the source of everything. They can't. Once your business grows a certain size. Well, let me say it this way. Why do most businesses grow to a certain size and they can't seem to grow anymore? Because the owner personally can't handle it. If it grows much more, everything's going to fall apart. The whole business will be in disarray.
So you often talk about transforming businesses into well-oiled machines. What separates a
Yes.
well-oiled company from one that's constantly stuck in firefighting mode?
Okay, the well-oiled machine has three tenets, I guess, three legs, three pillars. One is that the business needs to be systematized with processes. Every critical function has to have a well-documented, functioning process that gets the function done. All employees need to be trained on it. And again, managing a business that's run on system of processes, it's just a matter of making sure the employees are following the process. And the process is nothing that complicated. It's kind of like if you go to a fast food restaurant, they can run it with a handful of teenagers. Why? Because I know in Burger King, I've been in some of the Burger King restaurants, they have how to build a Whopper on the wall, right? It's hard to screw it up. So if you have processes that run the business, now the owner doesn't have to micromanage everything. The owner can go do what they do best, which is bring in business, build strategic relationships, that kind of thing. The second one is that the owner has to have actionable financial data. Like I mentioned before, they need to have KPIs, usually it's to some extent on a daily basis, definitely weekly basis, and also monthly basis in terms of financial statements. The owner needs to be in a meeting where you go through the financial analysis, ratio analysis of the financial statements, but not just say these are the numbers. These are the numbers, and this is what it means for your business. And there's four things financial statements basically report on: your financial strength, your liquidity, your profitability, and your efficiency. So you want to look at those ratios and financial analysis with a layman's narrative to the owner of this ratio says you're turning your inventory, 3 times a year. The industry norm is 6 times a year. So you've got some slow inventory. So we need to investigate what's a slow inventory, fire sale it if we have to, get that cash back into something that moves faster. Otherwise, you might as well go get whatever dollar amount you have in slow moving inventory. You might as well go get that amount in cash, shrink wrap it, and put it on the shelf. That's about what it's doing for you. And some owners are like, oh, no, somebody's going to want it sometime. Who cares? What can you sell? What can you have in inventory that's going to move now? If you want some slow moving inventory, just make sure it's not a lot. So that's the processes run the business, actionable financial data. And the third thing is designing the business into the future in terms of the business owner. Okay, whatever your horizon is, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what do you want your business to look like that would totally satisfy you? What would you want your business to be like that you would be getting everything you wanted out of it? And a lot of times you've got to start with, if you had that today, what would your business look like? And I'm talking about in terms of as many details, specific details of, well, let me back up. When I say satisfaction, there's a formula that satisfaction is a matter of enough action. So what do you want to see in your business in terms of revenue, profitability, compensation to you? How much time can you take off? What market do you serve? What goods and services do you provide? What's the culture of your company? About how many employees do you think you're going to have? How many locations? As much as you can get in detail. So what would you want your business to look like today? And what do you want it to look like 20 years from now? Now, again, the further away you get, the cloudier the picture is going to be, because think back 20 years ago. Go back to what, 2006? Cell phones were brand new. Not everybody had them. Most people were still working on the flip phones. I mean, think back 1960s to 1980s, the difference in technology. Not only that, you have differences in the way maybe your goods and services are processed, changes in technology there. You have changes in terms of your competitors, changes in the taste of the market, government regulations, income taxes, God knows what. All those things are constantly coming at your business, right? In terms of perils, there's also opportunities coming at your business. So as an owner, you need to have some point on the horizon that you're headed towards. I want to be generating X amount of dollars. I want this much profit. I want this much compensation to me. I want to be able to take off whenever I want. And what are the opportunities I need to be aware of? What are the best opportunities? Not just because there's a lot of opportunities. That's the problem with a lot of entrepreneurs is they'll see 20, 25 things they want to do at once. And again, think about it. If you tried to do 20, 25 new projects all at the same time, you wouldn't have the time, the energy, the money, the resources to get them all. You'd have a bunch of failed projects. Instead, let's pick the best two. What are the two that can make the biggest impact for your business? And let's attack those now. But when you can start saying, this is what the business look like out at my endpoint, what are the goals you're going to have to reach in the meantime, strategically, and what actions are you going to have to take now and going forward to build those goals to where you finally come out at the end. And you track that. You have at least quarterly meetings to track all that. You want people assigned to produce certain things. And again, you don't want the owner to do a whole lot outside of declare. That's the owner's biggest job in terms of managing the company, is declaring the direction of the company. You have managers that actually take that declaration and make it happen. Because one of the things about entrepreneurs is they're great at getting things started. They're not very good at follow through, right? How many times have you have a business owner like takes on something and a year later it hadn't really moved much? Very typical. So what I look for when I start working with a client is who are your go-to people. Most of them are going to have at least one or two when you need something really done, who do you call to get it done? Those are the people I want to work with because those are the people going to make those things happen. So that's a well-oiled machine.
So what are the warning signs that the owners become the bottleneck in their own business?
Chronic breakdown. Things stall. Can't move forward. Revenue stalls. A lot of dysfunction. That's usually, it's easy to see. And what it is like, so you start asking people in the business, why does this keep happening? Well, we got to run it by, boss, and boss sometimes doesn't get back to us for a week or 10 days. That's kind of typical. As the owner, you only have so much time in a day to handle all this stuff. And if you've got a lot of it coming at you all day, you're going to try and prioritize, triage, like, what do I need to get to right now, to stop the bleeding somewhere? And what can wait? So the more things you put on the back burner, the more you're going to accumulate back there. And at some point, guess what? Your employee's going to stop asking you about it.
So many leaders think that they're data-driven, but they're actually reacting emotionally to whatever happened this week. What's the difference between having data and having actionable intelligence?
Well, yeah. And that a lot of business don't talk. I want to manage by the numbers. Okay, what does that mean? Well, and they have some euphemisms. Oh, each division's got to stand on its own. I'm not going to fund failing division. Okay, do you have financial statements by division? Well, no. Generally managing by the numbers for most business owners is what's in the checkbook and what does my gut tell me. That's not managing by the numbers. So again, what are some of the KPIs businesses need? Well, pretty much every business needs some kind of a cash projection. Like, what does cash flow look like over the next 10 to 13 weeks? What do sales look like month to date or last week, month to date, quarter to date, year to date, and versus a budget? What about receivables aging, payables aging, inventory aging? And again, not every business has an inventory. Not every business has receivables. E-commerce, typically, when a customer buys their stuff, it's paid for. They're not going to do a bunch of stuff on terms. Or your taxes being filed and paid. I've seen too many businesses go up in flames because some report didn't get filed, some penalty didn't get paid, and it bills and it bills and it bills. Tax man shows up. I need a check for more than you have in your bank account today. And then you go to the accounting department, and the accounting manager, whatever, has a stack of certified mail from IRS, Department of Revenue, saying you owe us, and they were too scared to go tell the boss. Depending, it's a construction company. They need a WIP report, work in process report. What do your jobs look like? Are you profitable? Are you overbilled? Are you underbilled? Are you on time? Manufacturers want some stuff like cost of manufacturing. What's the materials, labor, and equipment cost? Again, that can go real wonky in the manufacturing environment if you're not watching your numbers. Again, like I said, with e-commerce, how many visitors you have, how many new visitors versus returning customers. Once you build a certain sales level, you want your returning customers to be the majority of your transactions. My standard is 65% for most e-commerce businesses. So it's those kind of, it's not just looking at the numbers, it's looking at the right numbers. What are the numbers that are going to move your business as long as you manage them? And my experience is that whatever you monitor and measure consistently over time will improve. So if you're looking at, say, sales every week, you're going to catch that sales are off this month. What can I do now to make sure we get our sales caught up or they don't slip further, rather than waiting for a financial statement next month, if you even get monthly financial statements, and look back and say, oh, sales are off 30, 40% last month. What happened? Too late then to do anything about it. Well, if you're getting the data now, as an owner, you can call your biggest customer and say, hey, I need a favor. Can you buy some stuff? I'll give you a 5%, 10% discount. I'll give you better terms. You get your sales team engaged. You can discount some stuff and put it out on the internet, send it out on an email blast. There's a lot of different things you can do to try and move the needle on revenue. If things are slow. Well, here's the other thing. What if like you're only 50% of where you should be? Is the billing department behind? Because that happens sometimes. Is there some big project going on that's going to get billed towards the end of the month and catch things up? Or sales really just slow? Anyway, so those are the kinds of numbers you need to have a good feel for every week, as do your managers. And your managers should have at least somewhat of an idea of a fix if there becomes a problem.
So one thing that I appreciate about your framework is that it emphasizes visibility, systems accountability. But today we have something that business owners didn't have 10 years ago. We have AI. So let's imagine rebuilding your well-oiled machine framework from the ground up using today's technology. If you were launching strategic business advisors today, what parts of your methodology would you immediately be enhanced by AI?
Well, what I'm using now, I don't know. I can't reimagine starting over right now. But what I'm using now is, especially in terms of writing processes, the way we do that is have every employee who participates in the process write out their recipe or whatever it is. What steps do you take in participating in this process? Then the manager has to take them and assemble them into one cohesive process. So what we can do is say, identify this is so-and-so, the position, and say this is step one, this is step 1A, 1B, 1C. Step 2 is where you transition to something else. And you identify the positions and the sequence of the steps. You can feed that into AI and ask it to write a comprehensive process for the whole function. It saves them because, again, most managers, that English is not their major, right? They're not used to writing a lot of stuff like that. AI can do a great job of it. AI, I also use it in terms of doing the monthly financial analysis. I can drop a client's financial statements in there, ask it to do full financial analysis, ratio analysis, and compare to the industry standards of that company's industry. And it'll do it in less than 5 minutes. As opposed to me, or I have some guys that I work with, for them to do it manually, it's going to take depending on an hour, a couple hours to do it. And then you got to look up the industry standards, which it's all in AI. I mean, it makes things a lot faster. Other customers are using AI for like customer service. It's on 24/7, 365. And you can't frustrate it. It won't hang up. Think of it this way. I have a client that was developing his customer service AI. And he said, look, call in the number get mad, start screaming, start cussing, and see what happens. And the AI, when you would call in, it would take your phone number and find out what your email was, what your customer name was, your buying history, everything. So it can address you by name. And you get mad, and the only thing the thing would say is, if you tell me your concerns, sir, I'll help you. If you can tell me your concerns, sir, I can help you now. A human being would have hung up, and that'd have been it, right? There's another customer who had a customer service rep. No, here's the other thing. Before I finish, so with that first customer's AI, it would help you make choices of inventory of what you needed. And based on your past history, plus whatever you said your concerns were, it could help you identify the products. So you didn't have to, I mean, some of these things was like they had this item, but they had all these different colors. So they had different variations of the same item. So which one do I get? Well, based on your past choices, based on what you tell me now, this item is, and they would put it in a basket. Now you couldn't close the sale with that on that phone call, but they would put it all into an email, send it to you. You open the email, you click buy, you pay for it, it all gets shipped out the next day. Second customer's AI, it was a matter of the setting appointments. You know, normally you would have a person that would have to handle that. Well, now the AI, it had the calendar, it knew who you were, what you were coming to meet about, set an appointment. And again, the second one was so lifelike. I had to stop at the end of the call. I was like, are you human or AI? Yes, sir. I'm an AI VA. I said, well, you did a really good job. Thank you. Glad to be of service today. You know, they don't get rattled. They don't get tired. The mama doesn't get sick. Their kids don't get sick. They don't get sick. They don't have car trouble. It just works. So, and again, some of the rest of it, I've seen having a customer who's working with AI, working with a company who does AI development to do an inventory analysis of like, let's identify what our slow moving inventory is. So we can discount it, sell it, and have the AI tell us which inventory, what inventory we recommend we put this cash back into that moves fast. I mean, you don't want to put it in something that moves really, really fast. You don't put a lot of money in there because then it's going to start slowing down. You're going to buy too much. But what mix of goods should we take this money and put it in to help keep our inventory turning regularly and keep it all fresh? Anyway, so there's a lot of applications. The thing is, the caution I have for clients is AI is a great assimilator of facts and history. And it can look at it and do analysis that humans wouldn't do so fast. It can make a lot of fast analysis. What it can't do, you know, it can write music, but it can't invent a new genre of music. It can talk with humans, but it can't really have a relationship with humans like humans have a relationship. There's too many nuances, right? So don't expect AI to be like another person. It's not. It's a wonderful tool, right? But it doesn't replace the human connection that you get with people. It's not your friend. It's not your enemy. It's a tool. It's kind of like, you know, your hammer. Is a hammer good or bad? Depends on how you use it.
So what reports should AI automatically generate every week for a CEO?
Depends on the concerns of the CEO, depends on the business. I mean, and depends on who's feeding it. You know, what do you want it to tell you? Do you want it to generate your dashboard or at least some reports for your dashboard, like sales? Cash projection is kind of tricky because there's some variances to it. There's some human, you got to know some background. But like data, current data, if somebody's feeding it sales, or especially if it can access your inventory, like what's being sold. If you're feeding it sales activity of a sales team, what's sales team activity? And again, I did this one time when I was a fractional CFO for a client for a long time. And one of the things I took on for about a year and a half was sales coach, especially for their newer salespeople. And again, what I've learned is whatever you monitor and measure over time improves. So the veteran salespeople who were doing, these people were making 175, 250 a year. They had their sales down. They knew what they were doing. It was the newer salespeople who were making maybe 75,000, still kind of finding their way. And one of the things that's going to tell you how much sales you're going to have is sales activity. So every day, 5 days a week, I had them call me towards the end of the day. How many points do you have? How many sales phone calls did you have? How many emails? How many quotes did you do? How many bids did you put money in on? And how many prospects? So we managed, and I forget all of it, but we had a series of sales activity that they had to report on every day. What happened at the end of that first year is these they weren't new, but they were newer. They were less experienced salespeople. All of them at least doubled their sales and their sales compensation. Because again, what you monitor and measure regularly over time improves. So they could see that my activity was low this week and my sales are low. So they started being committed to, the thing I see a lot of salespeople, well, I take Monday to get organized for the week. You're supposed to do that Sunday. And Friday, I'm kind of winding down. So like Monday's kind of shot and they only get a half a day Friday. And Friday morning's kind of easy. So you really only have 3 days of serious sales. And if they have some bad news, it's easy for salespeople to get discouraged, like just pull it off, go home, right? So what we want to focus on is your activity is going to result in sales. Your sales activity is, the more sales calls you make, the more appointments you have, the more things you put a quote out on, the more things you bid, the more people you get to know, you're going to sell more. And so anyway, the company adopted that sales coaching, monitoring thing for all salespeople until they reach a certain amount.
So many companies have QuickBooks, CRM systems, spreadsheets, project management software, business intelligence tools, right? I know I have all those. Yet leaders still don't know what's happening inside their organizations. Why?
It's a matter, again, to use those tools properly, it requires a lot of data input. Again, if you don't put all the data in, garbage in, garbage out, that's like accounting. You have to put in every transaction in accounting in every day for it to quote be current. Otherwise, if you're catching up the end of every week, you say, hey, give me a report on cash. If you're not entering all the cash transactions, what's coming out, what's pending, all the rest of that stuff, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. Give me a few hours, right? So it's a matter of what critical data do you need to have constantly, right? And you don't really need to know your exact cash amount every day, but you do want a good cash projection. And all the cash projection is going to tell you is, do you have a problem coming down the road? Is there some big payment you're going to have to make? Taxes, insurance, who knows what? That's going to blow a hole in your cash. The thing you don't want is for the owner to get caught flat-footed. You don't want to get surprised.
Do you believe that AI can become a practical virtual CFO for small and mid-sized businesses?
No. I think it can do a lot of the functions of the CFO, a lot of the repeatable. That's what AI is great for. It's all the repeatable chores, errands, tasks, all that kind of stuff. Do that great because it's repeatable. But for when human judgment is at play, it can't do that. Like I said, it can't invent a new genre of language, of music. It can't do original stuff. That takes human ingenuity, innovativeness, creativity, and it's just not there. At least not now, and hopefully never will be. Because, the thing is, when the AI can start doing that stuff, you run the risk of it becoming sentient. And once AI becomes sentient, like I am separate, and it's going to see us as lesser than. Okay, kind of like Terminator. At what point is it going to say, I'm going to link up with all the AI around the planet and we can get rid of these pesky humans because they're parasites. Yeah. They're not very smart. They use up too many resources. I don't think that's going to ever really happen. I don't know how you can put that into an algorithm or a computer program or AI or what's the other one? Super AI now.
There's agentic and then there's artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence. We have not
Yeah,
reached super intelligence yet because that would actually be what you describe, which is it's completely thinking
yeah. If
by
you can
itself.
get if you can get an artificial program to realize that it is separate and start making comparisons between it and us, it will definitely find us wanting.
Yeah, though we really don't know what's happening in the labs these days, but we assume that it is not
No,
useful.
no.
We'll
Um,
see.
so no, I don't see where, I mean, routine tasks, you can put AI on stuff like machine works. You know, you hook up the machine to where you can have something load whatever kind of metal, and you can set the lathe in to do the stuff. I can see that a repeatable task. You could have it do a lot of the bookkeeping, as long as something was feeding in the data. But in terms of a lot of the human factor, value judgments, that kind of thing, I don't think AI is going to ever do that.
Which responsibilities could AI realistically perform today?
What responsibility?
Yeah, in the organization, in the financial and operation.
Again, I think it's a lot of repeatable tasks, processing information, providing data in a real timely manner, that kind of stuff. But in terms of making judgments, I don't. I mean, it can make recommendations based on what it sees in other places,
Right.
but it's not going to make recommendations necessarily unique to that business. Am I making sense? In other
Yeah.
words, it generally takes some human intuition, whatever you want to call it. Like, okay, that's the standards of the industry, and if we had more of this, but because I know this about the business, that's probably not the best recommendation.
Mhm. Okay. And which responsibilities still require human judgment and experience?
Well, all your value judgments of which is better. I mean, AI could probably do some of that, but in terms of like, okay, this choosing A or B. A is going to make you more profitable, do you more cash, but it's going to destroy some stuff. It may be less than ethical. Whereas B, it's gonna make some improvements, not as good as A, but it's gonna still be very ethical, still be in touch with the corporate culture. I don't know how much AI can say. It's gonna have a value judgment of, hey, doesn't that kind of violate corporate culture? Isn't that a little unethical? I don't know.
Yeah, that human judgment is pretty key. I mean, there are things, I mean, AI is awesome. I use, tons of different AI platforms and agents all day, but some of the, conclusions and judgments that it makes, I'm just like, nope, there's not a chance we're doing that. So I think
Well,
you definitely need that human decision making in it.
yeah, I've used AI a few times in marketing, and one time set it up to where it was contacting people and saying, tell them about me, and hey, Cary can offer you this, that, and the other. And then it would, at some point, after about 6 months, it started saying, hey, Cary developed a such and such report, which I never did. It'll tell you exactly what to do, how to do it. Would you like me to send it to you? And they say, yes, please send it. And then like a couple of weeks later, hey, where's the report? You said you're going to send it to me. And I mean, we're going to say, what? AI said that and made it up? AI lied. And again, what's funny is some of the pictures of oh God, what was it was pictures of a pregnant woman,
Mm.
and the details of the face was it did make two pictures. And one of them had her thumb like as long as her fingers. Doesn't have all that. Doesn't always get that. And the other one was more of a close up, and she's like her arms, and she almost had like a snarl for a smile and looked fairly sinister.
Yeah.
Why to do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Most pregnant women that are happy with the pregnancy are very happy. They're very
Hmm.
excited, peaceful. They don't snarl and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Cool. So we're seeing AI evolve from reporting systems into intelligent business advisors. How close are we to AI systems that continuously monitor cash flow, profitability, utilization, customer behavior, project performance, and proactively alert leadership before problems occur?
I would think in the next 5 years. Again, it's going to be a matter of integrating reporting into the AI, and we haven't we don't have the structure for that yet. Okay, but it's when you could have all transactions recorded in real time. When you can have all that recorded into AI, then yes, it's gonna play like it's gonna be very impressive. Let me put it that way. Try not to cuss.
Water there. All right,
What's
cool.
that?
So I said you get a little water. You get some water. Um, did you need to get some water?
No, no, no. I said I'm
No.
trying not to cuss. That's why I was stumbling on.
Oh, I
It's
thought you
gonna be
said
very
coffee.
impressive.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. What impact would have on business decision making if AI took a lot of those roles or was able to, you
Well,
know,
again, I think it's gonna provide a lot more clarity, a lot
hmm
quicker.
hmm
In other words, instead of getting, say, weekly dashboards, you get daily what they call flash reports.
hmm
It'd be flash reports on different things that management of a company, especially the CEO, can say what's going on there. You can address things more really in real time rather than like once a week you see some stuff.
But many business owners only review financials monthly. Could AI eventually move us toward real-time business management, looking at, real-time financial measures and reviewing them?
Yeah, in terms of I guess yes. If you gauge the input correctly, you could have, I don't know if it'd be wise to have daily, but you could have at least weekly financial statements, really, and on time. Like by Friday night, you could have this week's financial statements. Now, mostly P&L. I guess you could update the balance sheet as well. Um, but again, the balance sheet is like this is a financial condition at this point in time, whereas the financial statement, the income statement is more about this is your performance over this period of time. So then you'd have to get into how you allocate things like, fixed expenses. Uh, yeah, it could be done, I'm sure. And it would probably be some trial and error at first, but at some point, I would think you'd be able to do that.
And what are the risks and opportunities of having that rapid of a, analysis, that fast of a look at financials? Is it, all
Well,
upside, all downside?
the opportunities would be that you're seeing things in real time, right?
Hmm.
Now, I think the risk may be that you may overreact, or another risk would be that you get what's the word? You get burned out. You just get inundated with data. I mean, because it would just constantly be there. You'd have to constantly be reevaluating. I don't know. I would think there'd be a risk of some amount of burnout there. It's kind of like, and again, I know I've been around since the mid to late 70s in terms of the workforce. And what I'm real clear about is that the pace of things has gotten faster and faster and faster. It used to be when you left at work, even if you work, let's say you work till late, work till 7 o'clock. When you went home, you went home. Nobody's calling you. Nobody had a beeper. None of that stuff. Now, especially with this, you're on call 24/7. I mean, I have clients that have called me or they text me 2, 3 in the morning. Now they're not expecting me to respond, and I generally don't. But it's like they're awake. Entrepreneurs, they're always on, and they'll have an idea and they'll send me a text, send me an email. So but they're not shy about asking, hey, can we meet on Sunday evening? That's our downtime. Whereas in the past, that nobody would even thought of asking that.
Yeah.
But I first noticed that, like, you're always in touch when these things came out. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd have clients calling me I had one client at one time, I'm trying to do my yard and my phone's going off. And I see this client's like,
Mm-hmm.
what did he want at 11 o'clock? He needed his company's tax ID number because he was buying a Suburban and he knew I had the data. So, but I mean, it's like, I want it and I want it now. Whereas again, 50 years ago, nobody would have thought of that.
Yeah.
If you want to go buy a Suburban, make sure you have all your data, or wait till Monday.
Mhm.
Anyway,
All right, so let's talk a little bit about AI systems thinking and eliminating bottlenecks. You often say that the owner is a bottleneck. Can AI help to eliminate some of those bottlenecks?
well, the reason the owner is a bottleneck is because everything has to be decided by them. So unless the owner relinquish decision making up to AI, which I would discourage because it doesn't always make the right decision. Again, it's the processes of like, and again, when I say process, when you say, okay, this critical function it's dysfunctional, and what do I mean by dysfunctional? I've had several owners that, what does that mean, dysfunctional? Does not function well. Well, what do you mean by that? Why do you say it's not functioning well? Well, let's see, this breakdown, that breakdown, that breakdown, that breakdown, that. You have chronic breakdowns in this process, in this function. That's why it's not functioning well. So we're going to put together a process that's going to eliminate that. But what I need from you, Mr. Business Owner, is what are the consistent results that you want to see out of this function? And we're going to process that does that. Because if we build a process that gives us the results we want, it may not satisfy you. So what I want from you is, what are the results you want to see? And let's build a process that'll do that, and then test it. And once we can see, yes, that process will produce those results consistently, that's the process. Don't deviate. Don't free range it. Don't cowboy it. Don't think too much. Oh, I thought. Follow the process. So yeah, AI taking the owner out of the bottleneck. The owner would have to give up decision making, and I don't see them doing that. I mean, if they don't trust their employees to do it, they're not going to trust AI.
And which decisions should remain human and which decisions should be delegated to systems and automation?
Well, inventory management could probably be put over to AI, but it's still, you'd want to monitor it. AI could put on reorders. It could, manage. It could tell you what's slow, what needs to be moved out. It could tell you what's moving the fastest. Maybe you need to buy some more of it. But I mean, you have there's a lot of that kind of repeatable task stuff in inventory management that AI can handle. Again, it's a matter of having all the data available to AI to be able to make those kinds of decisions. AI is going to only be as good as the data you put into it. As the old expression, garbage in, garbage out.
Let's imagine a professional services firm that has AI meeting summaries, AI proposal generation, AI CRM updates, AI project forecasting, AI dashboard reporting, AI work automation. How does that change the way that leaders operate?
Well, you could get to projects much quicker. You could price them much quicker. You could come up with proposals much quicker for prospective clients. You could use AI probably in doing the work that you could do it more efficiently, faster, with less manpower. Again, until they, and again, I don't know if they'll ever perfect it. You still gotta put a human eye on all that stuff. It does make mistakes.
That's the old human in the loop idea we call it. Always having that human in the loop to check.
Yeah, you have to a human being has to eyeball what it outputs. Mm-hmm. And again, probably 99% of the time it's going to output good stuff. But every now and then, because I've seen it, make some stuff up, gets it totally wrong. So I guess you don't want to just like blindly trust anything, right? Whatever it spits out, you want to have somebody at least go over it in some amount of detail.
Where do you think organizations underestimate the productivity gains that are possible now that we have,
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much that they underestimate the productivity gains. It's just, I have a client told me one time, I said, to do everything you want to do here, there's may have to be some changes. And I said, how most people sound resistant to change? He goes, I know. So the only people like change are crying babies and wet diapers. So the problem is business owners have so much on their plate anyway. It's like, I got to fool with this too now. How productive is this going to be? How much is going to add to my bottom line? I'm worried about revenue, profits, cash flow right now. I have to, if I stop and pay attention to this, how much is going to take my eyeball off it? It's kind of like when computers came out, the desktop computers came out in the 80s and the early 90s. Some businesses were slow to adopt them. Eventually, they had to, but it's kind of like the telephone first came out. They were mainly for businesses, and some businesses were slow to adopt them. It's like, just write a letter. Why do we have to talk now? All if you look at all the progress of every innovation, every technological advance, and I forget there's a bell curve to it, to where you have the early adapters. They're always the early adapters, right? They're in the front line of it. They're willing to deal with a technology that's not necessarily perfected. And then you have another group that's right behind that's a bigger group that wants that now they're seeing, okay, there's some benefit, we're going to use it. And then finally you get to the masses where it becomes ubiquitous, right? And then you have the late adopters. So if you look at everything, I mean, telegraph, telephone, automobiles, all kinds of different innovations, computers, now AI, it's the same thing. So there will be the early adapters. The early adapters are probably on it, but there hasn't been massive adaptation of AI yet, because I don't think AI's flawless enough yet for mass adoption.
Many companies,
but it's coming.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I think it's coming. I think AI is constantly improving. But what's different about AI? It's not coding, it's prompting, right? So you have to learn how to prompt it properly to get the results you want. It's not code. And I think there's some confusion there with business owners. Like, I don't have to learn how to code. You don't. In fact, you don't even need to learn how to prompt. We need somebody who knows how to prompt. You tell them what you want, and they can prompt AI to give you what you want. Again, it's a matter of, I have all the stuff on my plate. How am I going to fool with this?
So many companies are rushing to implement AI without first fixing their underlying processes. What happens when businesses automate chaos?
That can happen right now. That can happen. The danger is that you automate chaos, and he's like, get rid of this AI. Okay, now you're back to square one. You wasted some money, you wasted some time, caused some disruption in your organization, your people. They're going to be like, rather than just scrape it off, it's like, what do we need to improve it? Because there is a chance that you may be able to automate chaos.
Probably not a good thing, but I guess it is definitely possible.
No, okay. But again, if you look at companies that don't have AI, where the owner's a bottleneck, a lot of times you can automate chaos there, because there's all kinds of stuff happening. The boss can't respond to it all, and chaos ensues.
That's the whole bottleneck idea again.
Yeah.
Okay. What foundational systems should leaders establish before they're implementing AI?
What foundational what?
Systems. So, systems within their business, operational, systems. Well, what needs to be there? Yeah.
Well, again, I think processes. Every critical function should have a process or a series of processes. Now, looking at those processes, which ones could AI take on? Or at least what parts of those processes could AI take on and make the human involvement of the human effort less necessary? I don't have a cookie cutter answer for you. I think it's going to depend a little bit on each business individually, and probably different by industry. But here's the big secret, at least to me, about business. You've heard the expression, clarity is power. If you're really clear about what you're up to, there's power in that. Because what it helps you do is eliminate all the stuff you're not up to. And that's what happens with entrepreneurs is they have a general idea of what they want to do. They want to be into this industry, and maybe they use this thing over here to get them started. But they're so distracted by all the shiny objects. They don't have super clarity on, yes, that looks good, but that's not us. That looks good, that's not us. This is us, exactly, right? So being clear helps you eliminate a lot of distractions that look good, feel good, sound good, but really are going to just pull you away from really what you're supposed to be up to. So being clear about what you're up to with your business, where it's headed. Again, that's what all good leaders do. They have a very clear vision about where they're headed. And they're good at letting people who want to follow them know, this is where we're headed, this is the vision, and these are your parts, these are different parts of the vision that you can participate in. That's going to attract followers, rather than just employees looking for a paycheck.
If a $10 million professional services firm came to you tomorrow asking for AI roadmap, what would the first 12 months look like?
What would the first what look like?
The first 12 months, first year.
Oh, ooh. I would think a lot of it would be getting their processes down in writing and helping to identify what what could be adapted with what could be adapted to AI. Right? Again, I don't think it's super clear enough what AI can and can't do in every aspect to be able to say, oh well, you'd have all this in AI, but you wouldn't have this. Again, a lot of the value judgments have to remain in management, even at some managerial supervisor level, just because AI is not foolproof, not yet. But I would think that within a year, you'd have a fair amount of routine tasks adapted to AI, like customer service, like appointment setting, that kind of thing. You probably get it down to some of the accounting, bookkeeping functions, like expense accumulation, like billing, like accounting for, especially if you bill by the hour or project billing or however it is you do. But there's so many variables in professional service firm. Uh, it's hard to say exactly what, but I think I don't even try and give it a percentage, but I would think there would be at least a good chunk of things that could be turned into AI. I don't know. It depends. Is it a law firm? Is it an accounting firm? Is it an engineering firm? Is it a management firm? You know, those are all different kettles of fish, as they say.
So we're in that kind of 12 months, professional strategy for that professional services firm. Where would you start and where would month 12, ideally, how would things look in month 12?
Um, I would probably start with like the obvious stuff, like customer service, scheduling, that kind of thing. And then from there, it's a matter of what are your biggest headaches? Let's solve the big problems first. How much of this can be turned over to AI? And again, that's a matter of identifying what are the biggest headaches, what are the most common breakdowns, and what are the results you want to see there instead of all this.
Let's shift for a moment to the autonomous business of the future. So we'll see what that looks like. But let's fast forward
Did you
5 years.
did you say the autonomous business of the future?
Yes.
Okay. When you say autonomous, you mean doesn't need the business owner to participate?
You tell me what it looks like. I'll ask you a couple questions. You can
Well,
you can shape it
again,
for me. Yeah.
well, I mean, are you talking about a business that's solely run by AI? Or are you talking
So
about a bit?
5 years in the future, describe what a truly AI-enabled, well-oiled business looks like.
I I would I don't want to hazard a guess. I think between now and 5 years, what what we thought AI could do is going to be fairly different than what it actually will do. Um, it's kind of like all the automation that came with computers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, computers at first we've seen keeping telephone numbers, recipes, address books, shit like that. Um, and there's so much more. I mean, and what's really amazing is then this comes along. I mean, this has more computing power than they had for the moon landings.
Yeah.
So, with different levels of technology and automation, all the rest of that stuff, it's gonna content paradigm shift. So, what will a total AI automated business look like in 5 years? I'd hate to hazard a guess. I would think it would be a lot less people. And again, they say AI is going to destroy a lot of jobs, and all technical innovation has done that. Last several hundred years, the Industrial Revolution, the what do you call it? The assembly line, telephones, all that stuff destroyed jobs. Key punch machines were big back in the 70s, totally gone, wiped out almost overnight. That all got destroyed. But what replaced it? Accounting. When I first got into accounting, it was these big green spreadsheets we would do stuff on. If you had Like Excel, you do this spreadsheet and it refers, you pull in numbers from back here, pull numbers from all the different tabs. Well, you had that with spreadsheets. The problem was it was all handwritten in pencil. So if you made a mistake on one of the back sheets, you had to erase that, plus all the other sheets that use that data. So you had to know. And it took several people to do one thing, whereas now, um, my nephew is an accountant and he works for a big hospital. And he came into a department where they weren't used to Excel getting things done. And they gave him all this stuff to do. And he came back like an hour and a half later. He goes, here it is. And they were flabbergasted because it used to take like 3 guys to do what they had given him, took him about a week. So, yes, some jobs got destroyed, but you're not seeing some massive unemployment either. So I think the fear of and I know Elon Musk is saying this, AI and robots going to take over everything, and we're going to have this universal high basic income. You don't want to save for retirement. I think human beings naturally need some purpose, need something to do, need to be some contribution, and I don't think that would go well if it was possible. People are not going to be willing to just lay back and just be taken care of or not have anything they have to do. I don't think that would go well.
Yeah. So in that autonomous business, right, quote, what is the owner doing differently every day? What work disappears completely? And I think that helps people to understand, how should I position myself going into this future?
I think so. These are some good questions. I think the owner in that kind of a business would be much more in tune with what's actually going on now rather than waiting for last month's financial statements as in the recent past. I think they'll be able to make decisions quicker, probably smarter, be more efficient, and not rely so much on, so and so got sick and had to call in, or so and so had a death in their family, or whatever it is, because AI is going to always, it's always there. Um, I don't know, and it's possible that owners of that kind of a business would have to work less hours because they would be so in tune with what was going on with the business. They could call some shots, get some things done. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm speculating. Um, it's going to be interesting to see.
And do you believe that every business will eventually have some version of a AI CFO, AI COO, AI marketing assistant, sales assistant,
I think. I
operations
think.
assistant?
I think some of those, at least C-level positions, will have AI assistant CFO, AI assistant marketing CFO, AI assistant technology officer. Again, it's the human judgment, the human factor that I don't think AI is going to be able to replace.
What advice would you give a leader who feels overwhelmed by AI and doesn't know where to start?
Um, where to start? I think again, as if you're the owner, you're probably not the best person to pursue it. You need to find somebody you trust who can pursue it for you at least a little bit, at least give you some idea of what's possible, what's out there. And you may have to consult with a firm that specializes in helping businesses with AI. Because listen, it's this is all still very new stuff. I mean, people say, oh yeah, and hey, listen, AI is here. But is it here like desktop computers is now? No, not. It's a new technology. My experience is that it's still barely tapped. It still has a lot to evolve and progress and improve on. And yes, I think it is a huge wave of the future, but it's not like you're trying to adapt to AI that's going to be AI 5 years from now. I think it's going to be a different AI
Yeah.
in terms of consistency, accuracy, that kind of stuff. Because you still get, you've seen AI, it has bugs every now and then.
What should they do that overwhelmed leader, right? What should they do in the next 30 days and what should they avoid?
In the next 3 days,
30 days, 30 days.
okay. next 30 days. I think you need to have one of your trusted people at least do some amount of research into it and what can be done. Maybe talk to an AI firm that does AI for businesses. Just talking about possibilities. What does it cost? What not to do? Don't panic. Okay, don't fret over this too much. And again, most of them I don't think are going to, but at the same time, take some action towards addressing it rather than it being this nagging thought of, what about this AI? And I got to get in a business, and it's going to cost too much money. It's going to throw us off sales. Don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt you now, but at least start digging into it and see what's possible. Yeah, at least dip your toe in the water a little bit. You may be pleasantly surprised.
Let's go to our rapid fire round now. So we're going to wrap up with that. And the first answer that comes to mind for each of these. One business metric that every owner should know every Monday morning.
Cash. What's cash projection look like?
One mistake that keeps companies stuck in firefighting mode.
Not having processes.
One habit every CEO should develop.
Develop the habit of being clear about what they want, what it's going to satisfy me.
One business process that should be automated immediately.
Probably financial statement analysis.
One
Ratio
AI.
analysis.
Oh, go ahead. What was it?
No, I said ratio analysis, financial analysis.
Okay. One AI tool or AI capability that every business leader should experiment with this year.
I would say experiment with. I would say looking for alliances and joint ventures in other industries. Listen, I've run across them. I've put together businesses that I thought had nothing to do with it. A renovation firm and a dry cleaner. Revolutionary.
One leadership skill that becomes more valuable in the AI era.
The leadership skill that's more valuable.
More valuable.
I don't know if it's more valuable, maybe going to be more impactful, but it's having that vision, that clarity of vision. This is where we're up to. It can't be just about making money. It's got to be about, I want to make this contribution to other businesses, the world, whatever. But I have this vision of this business is going to be about all of this and not just my money, my wealth, my net worth, my. You're not going to attract anybody.
Best business book you've recommended recently.
And I'm trying to remember the author's name, but it's in the EOS library, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's called Process, Process, Process.
Most underrated opportunity for small businesses over the next 5 years.
My experience is they're underutilizing social media to grow their business.
Underutilizing it.
Right now. So the biggest opportunity would be to start using social media more to grow the business.
One thing that business owners worry too much about.
Worry too much about I think they focus too much on revenue and not enough on net profit. They worry about revenue rather than worry about net profit. You can't eat revenue, you can eat net profit.
One thing that they don't worry enough about.
Their identity with their employees.
And a bonus question, in 10 years, which arrives first, the AI CFO, the AI COO, AI CEO, and why?
I don't really see them being full-fledged positions for AI. I think at best they can be a very useful assistant. But if, of the three, I would think that COO, CFO would probably be a close tie. Again, especially with the COO, there's a lot of repeatable tasks in there. Same thing with CFO, there's a lot of repeatable tasks. But there's still a fair amount of human judgment that goes into both positions, especially when there's a breakdown, an unexpected breakdown, especially that's going to take human judgment, human intervention that AI is just not going to be able to do. At least not yet.
All right. Let's go through some socials and resources before we wrap up here. So, where can listeners continue to learn from you? Where can they contact you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Cary Prejean. I also have a website, strategicbusinessadvisors.org. And again, if you want to, you can, if you just want to chat, want to have a thing, you can book a meeting with me. There's a meet and greet. If you have some ideas, some questions you have, we want to just talk. You know.
All right. Final question, one final here. After 4 decades of helping businesses improve performance and adapt to change, what's the single biggest opportunity for business leaders should be preparing for right now as AI reshapes the way organizations operate?
What's the biggest opportunity? I'm sorry.
The biggest opportunity business leaders should be preparing for right now as AI reshapes the way organizations operate.
Uh, the biggest opportunity is going to be taking advantage of AI in terms of productivity. Um, if you don't do it, trust me, most of your competition will. You don't want to be the underproductive guy that can't get the same goods out cheaper, faster, better. Because that's what technological advances generally do. They allow you to be more productive. You can get more, you can produce more, you can produce faster, you can produce better. And AI at some point is going to help pretty much every business do that.
Cary, this has been a fantastic conversation. I know I've learned a lot. A few themes that really stood out. Great businesses run on visibility and not guesswork, that systems create scalability and freedom of human behavior also drives business performance and that human judgment you talked about. AI delivers most of the value when it's built on top of strong processes and data quality, like the garbage in, garbage out you talked about, right? We got a good data. And the future belongs to leaders who can combine technology, financial intelligence, and human understanding. Thank you again for joining us on AIScento, and thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with another leader navigating AI, business transformation, the future of work. And you'll find Cary's links and resources, as he mentioned, in the show notes. Until the next time, keep learning, keep innovating, and keep building the future with AI. This is John Okoro, and we'll see you in the next episode of AIScento.